Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2022 Buick Enclave, we're going to be showing you how to install the Aries running boards. But before we get into that, why don't we just check these out and make sure they're to work for you. Running boards are one of those items that are pretty straightforward, you know, and some people kind of get them for the appearance upgrade. They think they look nice, and then, you know, they also help you get in and out of the vehicle. So it's really beneficial for, you know, maybe children, help them get in and out. Maybe people with limited mobility, makes it a little bit easier on them. And these are kind of in the arena more so of appearance, at least in my opinion. I think they look pretty decent. They are kind of a matte black finish, and there's also a polished or chrome type set available as well, so you have a couple to pick from there. But don't get me wrong, they're still going to have some functionality. If you open up the door, there's definitely something there to get your foot on, right? I mean, I got on big work boots and I can get easily my toes on there, so there is some benefit there and will make it a little bit easier to get in and out of your Buick. Something a lot of people don't think about, you know, is different ways you can use your running board. So, for example, my own vehicle, I like to use them in the wintertime, you know, where my boots are covered in snow and whatnot. Instead of just hopping up inside the vehicle and dragging that into the carpets, you can, you know, click your feet on them and knock all that off. And these are going to be durable enough to handle that, and you're not going to have to worry about damaging them or anything along those lines. And, you know, if you go to wash your car off or something, or, you know, if you by chance have a roof-mounted accessory that you put up here, it is going to give you a little bit of a better platform to kind of stand on and get the job done up on the roof and make it a little easier. The surface area of the running board in terms of where you can actually step is going to be about 5 inches wide. So, you know, you have a little bit of working room there. These are going to have a weight capacity of 500 pounds, so that should be more than adequate. And these are going to be made from aluminum too, so you don't have to worry about rust issues down the road or anything along those lines. But other than that, at the end of the day, you know, a nice touch on the Buick. They look decent and actually function as well, so can't really ask for too much more. As far as the installation goes, really not too bad. Everything's pretty easy to get to, and no huge modifications required or anything along those lines. So this is something you should be able to do. But speaking of that, if you'd like to see how that's done, feel free to follow along. We'll go ahead and install them together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here on the side of our vehicle. And the first thing that I like to do is just kind of lay out all my brackets and hardware roughly in the position of where they're going to go, since the brackets are specific to a certain position on the vehicle. That way it just kind of speeds things up when we're actually going to get these put in place. But with that said, we'll start with the front bracket, and we're going to be working right here in this area. Our front bracket is going to sit like that underneath of our vehicle, and so there's going to be 2 attachment points. This one, there will be a rubber plug there, and so just take a screwdriver and pop that out. And what you're going to do is take one of these bolts, put that in there, and then take a plastic retainer, and that'll kind of just slide onto the bolt, and you can kind of tighten it down, and that'll prevent it from falling inside of the frame. As far as this attachment point goes, we're not going to have a plug to pull out, so we don't have to worry about that, but we'll just take that same piece of hardware and this retainer and put that in as well. And once we have those in, we can then grab our bracket and get it put into place. Pretty straightforward here. Our bracket's going to slide onto that bolt and onto this one, and then on each one of those bolts we're going to take a flat washer, a split lock washer, and a hex nut, and we're going to get them both started hand tight. For the middle attachment point, we're going to be using this hole here. So just like the front, pull that out, and same type of hardware there, and one of those plastic retainers. Then the middle bracket will look like this. That'll slide right over it. And we're going to attach it with the same hardware combination that we used on the front. Just a flat washer, split lock washer, and a nut. And then for the second attachment point, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So that second attachment point, the hole in the bracket has got to line up with that small hole there in the frame. Alright, and to get our hardware up in there, we're going to use a fish wire. So you can take the coiled end of the small fish wire, run it through this hole, and we're going to push it towards the back of the vehicle. And there's a little bit larger hole right here, and we're trying to get it to drop out of there. Sometimes that is easier said than done. You might have to kind of try to get your finger up there and help guide it out. Or sometimes as well, it might not hurt to kind of put a small bend at the end of that fish wire, something like that, to help it kind of drop out. So there it is, once we got it out. And you're going to put on this little spacer block. And this carriage bolt will thread on like that. And we can feed the hardware up into the frame. Until it drops down. So once we get that bolt to drop down, you can take the other end of your fish wire, put it through the bracket. And then remove fish wire. You can take a flat washer. If you can hold this up here and get it to stay. I'm just tightening the top bolt with my hand a little bit more to try to keep this from falling down. So I can use two hands there. But we're going to take a flat washer, a split lock washer, and a hex nut. We'll get that started hand tight. For the rear attachment point, it's located right here in this area, and it's the same as the others. There was a rubber plug in there. I popped it out. Use the same type of hardware. You know, put that bolt in and that plastic retainer. Now we can grab our bracket and get it started hand tight. This is what the rear bracket is going to look like. And just like the others, we'll slide that on, put on your flat washer, your split lock washer, and your hex nut. For this attachment point, you can take the larger fish wire, the coiled end of it, feed it up through the bracket. And then you're going to take the larger spacer block, put that on, and then the larger carriage bolt will thread onto it. And then this big opening here, you can feed the carriage bolt up into, and the spacer block until it drops back down. And swing the bracket up, and then remove the fish wire. Then you're just going to take flat washer, split lock washer, and the hex nut. Now we can take our running board and kind of set it roughly into position, and on the bottom of the running board, these the hardware is already going to be in it, and it's going to have just a flat washer and a lock washer and a nut on it, hand tight. So take all them off, but keep them because we're going to be using them. And then these slide, so you can get it pretty close to position here that will line up with our brackets. So once we have all those set, we should be able to grab the running board and start to get it all lined up. So the fasteners are just going to line up with the slots there and the brackets. Once you have all the bolts from the running boards passing through the brackets, we can take the hardware, which will consist of the flat washer, the split lock washer, and the hex nut, and you want to get all of those started and tight. At this point, we can come back to our brackets and snug them down. I'm going to push them up as high as I can go to keep the running board tight to our vehicle. 17mm socket. And I'll do that for all of our remaining brackets. Once all the brackets are snug, you can adjust your running board how you want it, so you can, move it front to back, essentially, and get it dialed in with how you're going to be happy with it. And once that is done, you can snug up the hardware, actually holding the running boards to the bracket. I'm going to use a 13mm socket. And finally, if you're happy with how everything is positioned, you can come back with a torque wrench and torque down all the hardware to the amount specified in your instructions. With this side now completed, you're simply going to repeat this exact same process over on the other side of a vehicle to get that one installed. And with that said, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Aries running boards on our 2022 Buick Enclave.